conversations, but if you have a technical or business question related directly to the board, please contact Pete because he is the voice of the district.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a resolution approving a revised policy on employee benefits, including medical, dental, and vision, and eligibility thereof. If you have your packet, it's pages 27 through 75.
Jumped again.
My mistake. I have nothing in my packet on 5A. I skipped ahead. 25 and 26. I screwed up, you guys. Okay, I will retract that and go back to item 5A, discussion action regarding the district organizational chart, personnel responsibilities and position requirements, page 25 and 26. Sorry.
I'm going to run down to this end of the table. Hopefully, you can catch me on the tape and everything else, and not on the tape, on the digital voice recording. But I thought that this was an item that was on the board's agenda for last meeting. We rightfully carried it forward to have a little bit more time. And I am not necessarily looking for any specific action other than if there is agreement coming out of this, there would be some additional action required on my part, more information gathering, more discussion about this. But the main thing that I want to make sure that we all understand is that it is what the responsibilities and obligations and efforts are of the various positions of the district. Okay, I'm not going to get into detail of every little nut and bolt of every task that everybody does, but there is a lot that happens every day of the week and every month of the year to go into these board meetings and to be part of the decision making, as well as implementing your policy and your procedures and meeting your customer service expectations and getting having the infrastructure be reliable and water quality be right and everything else. And many times we can look at the organization and we can see indicators out in the system or in the community that drive us crazy, and then not really understand how the system operates, how the internal human portion of the system operates to make that happen. And so that's really relevant in what you ask your manager to do and what you expect your manager to produce, and then also what you expect of all the other staffing. If you add the general manager in as full-time, and if you consider the temporary office help as 3/4 time, in reality it's 5 3/4 full-time equivalents. You have the general manager, operations supervisor, 2 operator ones. Okay, this is our, let me go ahead and get to, put it on the screen if it's not frozen already. There we go. Okay. We have, this is taking the top of the org chart. You always have the public and the board. Okay, so I'm not forgetting those. Those are just above this. I want to make it clear that this is the staff end of the equation. And you have a general manager, and on the operations side, you currently have an operations supervisor. You have other positions. You have water operator 3 and you have water operator 2. And then you have water operator 1. Currently, you have 2 operators that are certified as distribution and treatment operator 1 by the state of California, and they are in that water operator 1 salary classification and job requirement. Okay? So there are 2 employees in that. And what I want to make sure we do is talk about the positions on how they fill the mission. This is not about people. We're not having a conversation about personnel, individual personnel and their performance, or lack thereof or anything else. This is really about how the structure fits getting the job done. So this is your current organizational chart. So I talked about the operations side, and I'll get into a little bit more detail about what each of those do. And then on the administrative side, you have what's called, you have basically 3 positions: office supervisor, board secretary, and billing property specialist. And we have 1 employee fitting that hybrid job description, basically fulfilling all 3 of those. Although you still have accounting clerk 2 and accounting clerk 1 positions with a slew of job requirements that they fulfilled. And then you have a temporary help position, which was a position created to fill the void in staffing and answering the phones and receiving the mail and doing a little bit of everything, taking payments and all that. And then right now you currently have a contract accountant. So that's the way that the system lays out currently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly bounce back and forth. And again, this is your current, I'm not making any of this up, this comes right out of your job descriptions. Under the policy direction of the board, plans, organizes, coordinates, supervises district functions and activities, provides policy guidance, program evaluation to staff, and the board of directors fosters cooperative working relationships with intergovernmental and regulatory agencies, the public, various public and private organizations and staff, acts as secretary of the board and treasurer. That is the way that that is written for the general manager. Okay? And that's the summary portion of the job description. Going down the operations side, the operations manager, you have them under direction of the general manager, administers and supervises the operations, maintenance, repair, and construction activities, plans, organizes, directs, and supervises through operations lead, the operations maintenance, repair, and construction work, supervising training. It's obviously a very nice, big, long run-on sentence, but you've got a primary and secondary job description for, wait a minute, I'm on operations manager. How did I get there? Let me go. Sorry, this is an operations manager and not the superintendent. I'm going to go back to the very beginning. And I don't believe that I've got the summary of the operations manager in there, so that is an incorrect description of what you have for the job description. Anyway, the operations, you know what? This didn't even start at the right. That's what happened. Sorry, I don't mean to be bouncing around, but I didn't start even at the right slide. This is the correct slide to start off with. Let me see if this actually goes to the operations supervisor. There we go.
Can you clarify?
Sorry about that. What's that?
Can you clarify the goal of what we're working towards? The way I see it is we're going to authorize you to do.
Well, okay.
Go back and report to the board.
Let me go back. Let me go back to the top. There is under the California Government Code. There's very specific language that describes the responsibility of the board.
I see that.
And describes the responsibility of the general manager. There's also discussion about treasurer and board secretary and all that, and the officers of the board, the president, vice president, and how those function. But this discussion is primarily that board role and the general manager's role in the discussion, because in some districts the board truly acts as a full-on policymaker. They bring in input from the community, they establish service levels, they put together strategic plans, long-range plans, all of that, and they say that they ask for the manager to develop a budget, and they match that up with deliverable items. You know, what are we going to deliver for that budget? Where are we going to how are we going to know if we're successful? What are we achieving? We're completing our capital improvement plan. We're keeping rates consistent. We're staying out of court. We've got reliable water service. We're not putting debts off and all that. And so setting those standards and then delegating that entire responsibility to a manager. So in other words, when the manager gets that budget, if the manager decides that it's best to have an operations lead and 3 operators, and they can do that within the budget because that's what gets all of the work done most efficiently, then it's the manager's responsibility to put that together, apply the funding to it, inform the board that that's occurring, and then measure success, okay? In other districts, the boards make a lot of the management decisions. You decide what type of truck, and I'm not pointing at this board, I'm just saying, you know, there's the other end, the other bookend, where they'll decide what kind of truck, how big, what motor, what the maintenance program looks like, who's assigned to the maintenance program, what the certification requirements are of the people, what the job descriptions are of the employees, you know, all of that, and specifically say you can only hire at this level, and you don't have the flexibility to move through merit increases and things like that, where on other districts that delegate the responsibility completely, they will delegate some authority to a manager to more similar to a private business, where you would be expected to keep and reward good employees and move underperforming employees either up or out.
Didn't quite go where I
Okay.
It says here that I move to authorize the direct staff to prepare a policy that further defines the general manager's role and responsibilities, and it goes on a little bit further. Which means that all we're really deciding is to say, yeah, go ahead and prepare this.
I'm kind of wanting to figure out where we land on that scale, because you know, if one bookend is that there's a lot of, you know, that the board controls a lot of the operational things, you know, who, how many, what certification, how they function, versus holding a manager accountable and responsible for it. You know, understanding that the smaller the community and the smaller the budget, usually the tighter it is. You know, in many cases you don't get, in a smaller district, you don't get a manager that can do that can take the money and make it happen and perform and report and make it all work. So right now I'm kind of in this middle place, because your job description for your general manager is a working manager. That's what you've had in the past. You've had a manager that was certified in water and participated and got on the backhoe and fixed things in the field and did all of that work. And their secondary role in reality was the time that they had available to do the management and to do the board leadership, to inform the board's decisions and be part of that process. It's difficult to mix those two in reality, to have an operator of a system actually have time to manage the district and in compliance with all the laws. And you also have an operations supervisor arrangement, which doesn't have a lot of authority in the job description, and the pay was associated with that. The manager was the operations manager in reality. The manager would make a decision about, you know, where we were purchasing the chemicals and blah, 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 because that was their role. They were the operations manager to make sure that things went right. They were the personnel officer in the operations as well. And so that's the situation that we're in currently. When I look at the things that I feel need to be assigned on the operations side to
fully implement a vehicle maintenance program.